Which job is a lot less fun than most people expect? Oh my gosh, build a bear. Weirdest and most frustrating thing. Granted, I didn't make it a super long time in the job and seeing kids so happy is great, but they are really strict and the bad times get pretty bad. I imagine that store is just parents with sticker shock trying to talk their kids into cheaper options. You go in to do the little $35 bear and walk out $150 later with a bear in a full tuxedo with a skateboard and a construction helmet. I'm a forensic scientist and it's literally the only thing people ask me about on dating apps. It's very technical work and it's extremely routine. I'm an archaeologist and I imagine we have very similar conversations. Usually when I meet people I avoid the topic at this point because the pressure is on me to drive the energy of the conversation with the exciting 3% of what I do while avoiding too many technical terms. It's kind of deflating to see how quickly people go from 100 to 0 interest because of my explanation. Professional photographer. Not like hobbyist, but business owning photographer. Sucks the love right out of your work. Because you started the business to take pictures. Then Karen doesn't like the way she looks in one of them, so she wants the whole set for free plus a reshoot for free plus those images for free. But then the two high school kids getting into a very ill-advised marriage at exactly 18 years old wants to book you for their wedding, but their budget is only $50. Then Karen calls back because she loves your work and wants to pay for another shoot. But only if you agree to do her friend's daughter's destination wedding for free. Then you get a call from your last bride. It's been 2 weeks since their wedding. Where the frick are her pictures? Then you get no leads from a bridal expo. Then a client finds out you don't support their candidate and tries to take you to court to get her money back. Then some insta thought who thinks she's influencing people offers a collab where you take pro photos of her and she adds crappy insta filters to it and claims her friend took them. And she's not gonna pay. And then you get some entitled mom who wants you to photograph every day of her newborn's first year of life for $100. I went back to being a hobbyist. Barnes & Noble. Your job has literally nothing to do with books and it obviously attracts a lot of that type, myself included. My younger sister worked in the cafe for a long time. She said it was really frustrating, especially since they sold Starbucks coffee but weren't an actual Starbucks store, so people would complain about not taking their gift loyalty cards or minor variations in the drink or pastry menu. That and making espresso drinks for people's 5-year-olds just felt really slimy. Park ranger. Don't get me wrong, I loved it, but a lot of days it was less talk about cool animals while wearing your ranger hat and more the toilets are overflowing again. Go clean the septic tank filter and stir the tank with a shovel. With a little bit of hey, there's a methed out guy down by the bridge. Can you convince him to leave without killing anyone? All for the low price of $26k a year with a college degree. This makes me kinda sad. One of those jobs I've always wanted and was thinking of pursuing when I leave the military. I do closed captioning. While I joke that yes, I get paid to watch TV, it's actually very tedious. And if you don't actually enjoy the programming, you're being forced to watch something you don't care for. Or worse, if it's something I do enjoy like a long form drama, we usually chop those up into 15-minute increments and split between everyone, so I only see chunks and not always even in order. It actually ruins the show for me. I can imagine it's tedious. My partner corrects YouTube videos sometimes and that takes so long. As a deaf person, I really appreciate captions, so thank you for doing what you do. Working in a flower shop. It's just like any other retail job, but people constantly tell you how fun your job must be. Also, helping grieving families choose funeral flowers is not fun. For sure. Dealing with brides, dealing with their mothers, funerals, sitting in traffic making deliveries, waking up super early to get to the flower market, and so much bleach. Well, I'm a scientist. I don't know if people usually think of that career as fun, but I think people think it's a lot more eureka and a lot less this data has to be manually processed for 600 hours before I can analyze it. Not a specific job, but traveling for work. I'm in tech and a lot of people starting out talk about wanting to go to customer sites and get out in the field. I love to travel for fun, but it's hard to fit in the fun stuff when you have presentations and stuff to worry about, and a lot of times your customers aren't in the fun cities anyway. I also think I prefer the stability and day-to-day schedule of traveling less frequently. A pediatric nurse. Being a nurse for children and adolescents. Everyone in nursing school talks about how much they want to work with kids. The reality is that a pediatric nurse sees more cases of abuse and neglect than any other specialty. Doesn't matter where you are in a pediatric hospital, it's the thing you see most. I've seen so many DCS, Department of Child Services, caseworkers that I've gotten to know some of them and became acquaintances with them. Sure, working with children and adolescents is great, but people don't think about the most essential piece of that puzzle, which is their families. It doesn't matter how good of care you give to those kids, if you don't loop the parents into that care, you may as well just not be doing anything for them. I feel you. I work in pediatrics. I'm one step away from oncology, so I know more about cancer than I'd ever like to know. It can be soul crushing at times. Although not necessarily bad. Beekeeping. Get used to the constant sound of buzzing during hive inspections, swarm removals, plus wearing the protective suit in hot butt weather for hours on end, give or take the situation. Also, there appears to be a large number of beekeepers allergic to bees, so EpiPens are a must. Demolition. Everyone wants to break crap with a sledgehammer. Everyone is tired of lifting that sledgehammer by 5 swings. Nobody wants to load the broken stuff into bags or a wheelbarrow and take it to the dumpster. I did a 2-week demo job years ago where I had to jackhammer 75 lbs at least, a concrete slab, and grind rebar into pieces. I'm in good shape and that job fricked me up. Video game testing. I've been working in the game industry for 6 years now, and teaching for 2. Testing video games is thought to be just you just play games all day, lol, but it's actually very specific and arduous. First of all, there are a bunch of testing methodologies such as load soak testing, white room testing, version testing, to name a few, but the most common one is functionality testing. Functionality testing is so if I walk into that corner with the shotgun in my inventory, I can clip through the wall, but if I have my M16 in my inventory, I don't clip through. Paleontologist. You don't get to work with full dinosaur skeletons and do all kinds of awesome expeditions. You are mostly sitting at a desk looking at some pictures and logging stuff on your computer, maybe examining a fossil occasionally. If you're lucky, you can go on a real dig, and OMG spend hours in the hot sun dusting off rocks. That actually sounds pretty fun. It basically sounds like school with some extra steps. Working in an animal shelter. For sure, it's probably less intense than zookeeping, but the amount of people who apply or volunteer expecting to come in and play with cute puppies all day is absurd. We're basically animal maids. You deal with animals of all sorts of behavioral and developmental stages, crapping and pee every freaking where, and then you look over and this freaking dog named Chumbawamba swimming in his water bowl, so you gotta fill that up 6 times and dry his kennel out, and then you go and mop up the cat room around 10 kittens who want to eat your mop, and also 4 children who are all yelling that there's puke in the floor and I must clean it now. Not to mention all the extra behind the scenes work that the public never sees. How in the summer, during kitten and puppy season, the shelter built a house 500, max has 750, and I didn't take a lunch or sit at all for any of my shifts for the past 6 days. How the courts force us to put down animals that we know can be rehabilitated, but we don't get enough funding to fight it. How animal control just showed up with the 4th pregnant stray of the week, but intake is full and even double stacked in some cases. So your co-worker fosters the cats on her own. Not even to mention the crappy freaking people who do dumb crap and end up getting bit or scratched, and the animal is the one who bears those consequences. I am the proudest shelter worker in the world. I adore my job, even at its hardest. I didn't sit for 9.5 hours today and I found a cat turd in the cuff of my jeans, but it doesn't matter because a bonded pair of adult cats got adopted today. I took 6 applications this morning and the cat in bank 4 with the goopy eyes already looking better, and we sent a mammal out to foster. The hard work is always worth it for these babies. I want to hear more about Chumbawamba. Acting. All the ones we see on TV and movies are the 0.0001% of incredibly lucky and talented people who managed to thrive in a hostile and overcrowded industry. And even when you are working, the actual job itself is 99% sitting on apple crate in hot makeup waiting for some grips to move a lighting fixture. Then you say 3 lines over and over again for an hour, and then you rap. That was my experience as an extra. I waited all day for something to do and was given a role as a doorman but neglected to tell me anything else. Luckily I thought to open the door and it made it on screen, but that was it. Being an extra in a movie. Now, it can be super fun. I especially love historical and post-apocalyptic sci-fi fantasy type stuff. But a typical day on set wasn't what I thought it'd be when I started doing it. Often we have to get up at 3 or 4 in the morning to get to holding. And if you're a minute late to check in, sometimes they'll kick you out. Then we sit around in holding with sometimes hundreds of other extras, and we're usually sitting there for a good 3 or 4 hours before they start telling us to get ready to film. During this time we go through long wardrobe, hair and makeup lines where they reuse clothes, unless you bring them yourself, brushes and makeup without washing them. When we finally get to film, it's often the same mundane motions over and over. Exceptions of course, and those are always fun. Then we either get shuffled around or go back to holding. Several more hours pass, we go film again. Hungry? You get lunch 6 hours after your call time, and a usually meager supply of snacks. In between takes it's more standing around, often in heat or rain, or we all get shuffled into cramped spaces to wait. Days on set are often more than 12 hours, and I know someone who had to be on set for 26 hours straight. They can legally hold you there until they declared filming is done. So don't make plans for the next day. Not to mention that you rarely see yourself in the final cut. I'm not trying to bash other background actors or the film industry, because I've met lots of awesome people and gotten to do some pretty cool things. For example, interacting with main actors in scenes, running around in the woods with fake guns, or being a zombie. But when I did my first job as a teen, I definitely thought it would be a lot different. ETA, like others mentioned, I'm not part of the SAG union, and extras who are do indeed get treated better, more perks. Also, it may be different in Hollywood. I've only worked in Georgia. I've also been a stand-in, and I like that a lot better because you're treated as the crew rather than, well, as extra. I did this a lot. It's hard but cool, but still no cash hardly in it. You can see me on screen in about 5 super mediocre movies. Still I had fun. Flight attendant. 1. You are on call, on reserve, forever, have a terrible schedule, have no life, and make no money for 5-10 years. 2. While you work for peanuts, you can't afford to use your flight benefits in any substantial way. 3. Then, when you finally get a chance to use your benefits for a trip, you have to fly standby, which means you aren't guaranteed to get on the flight you want. 4. Then, if you do make it out of town, you better have like a week off so you can make dang sure you're back in your base city in time for your next work shift. 5. Did I mention there is an act of US legislation, Railway Labor Act, that allows airlines to exploit so you don't get paid for certain work hours that you actually need to be working? For example, FARs don't get paid for boarding, or any time the plane is at the gate. Worst job ever. Google Street View driver. You're all alone for 8+ hours a day. Can almost never take a break. Need to constantly be on and focused, lest you crash the $25,000 Subaru with $60,000 plus worth of camera equipment on it. You end up becoming an amateur meteorologist to keep track of weather patterns and cloud cover. And in my experience, there are a lot of people who just get insanely upset at you, at Google, and the job in general for a wide variety of reasons. I enjoyed myself when I did it, but it was nowhere near as glamorous or fun as I or my friends and family assumed. Accountant. Everyone thinks it's all fun and number crunching, but the constant stream of women throwing their panties and wanting to bear your children is honestly exhausting. My mother's an accountant. From what I can tell, it's a lot of staring at large numbers and making sure they're all correct and going through vast amounts of spreadsheets. Then discovering you made a mistake somewhere on the spreadsheet that was for January, so now you have to redo January, February, March, April and May. Meanwhile, your deadline for June is in 3 hours. Being a character performer at Disney. Don't get me wrong, there are some amazing perks and truly magical moments. I know I'm super lucky and tons of people would love to be in my shoes, but the day-to-day work is exhausting in ways I never thought possible. Guests are ridiculously abusive. I've had things said and done to me I never would have imagined. The company isn't always great. It highly depends on your leadership, and there's so much focus on your body and face. good and bad, that it can be incredibly depressing and difficult emotionally. Plus, you have to accept that there's very little upward mobility. Most people grow out of it, and it's rough to know that one day you'll get too old or too fat and you will have to start all over in a new career field. So you constantly are thinking either 1. What you're going to do when you leave, 2. How you're going to keep yourself there. I personally knew it would be temporary, and I now only work there seasonally while I have a normal career, but Disney has a way of sucking you in. A long time ago the local schools would have grad night at Disneyland. One year a group of rowdy boys decided they would beat up Mickey Mouse. Not only were they total buttholes, but Mickey Mouse was a girl that night. The school got banned from Disney for 10 years. Working in a music store. Musical instruments. Your days are spent listening to 50 different people play 50 different riffs poorly simultaneously, as if they're all putting on their own concert. A whole lot of Iron Man and Stairway. Being a writer. I always thought it was my absolute dream job, but the only job I could get after college was working in a content mill as a blog writer. I used to work 70-hour weeks staring at the computer in a basement of an old bank writing bulls articles about the dangers of mold, fence cleaning, and why you need a commercial awning, and the dream turned into a nightmare. While I still write occasionally, I am now working as a communications person, so it is a bit less heavy. My wife did some copy work for a realtor at one point. She was also excited at first because she loves writing. Turns out that job was not writing so much as it is trying to fit in specific SEO phrases as many times as possible into a paragraph without it becoming blatantly obvious that's what you're doing. Trimming weed. IDKY. People think working with weed is like working in the Willy Wonka factory. It's not. You literally get to make tiny cuts with sticky scissors for 8 hours. Yay. Was gonna say cannabis dispensary. Everybody coming in, you have the greatest job, it's just retail. I have seen this question before, and then it was Zookeeper at the top comment too. Nice. Anyways, there's this making a Frozen 2 mini doku. Most animators work weeks for a minute of animation of one character, if not less. At one point they decided to leave out a piece that one person had solely been working on. Must be crappy to be part of the credits without being able to say this is my part. I couldn't believe it. It was even crazier to me when Sterling K. Brown recorded an entire song and it got scrapped. It's insane how much ends up on the cutting room floor for a movie to be just right. I was so psyched for the animator that did that end scene for Into the Unknown though. She killed it. Flight attendant. I did it for a year. Think you're going to have a week-long layover in Paris? Guess again. You're working the red eye to Detroit. Don't get too excited yet. You're laying over in Cleveland tomorrow. Couple that with the job being boring AF. You just sit around for hours at a time on the flights, and it certainly is much less exciting than you would think it would be. Working at a Charles Dickens Fair is interesting, but not incredibly fun. It is hard to stay in character, and people get so mad when they see the Alice in Wonderland area. Yeah, we know it's not Charles Dickens, but we can't have a kids play area in the world of Oliver Twist, okay? LOL, the kids play area is a coal factory. Seeing all this makes me feel like I don't want to have a job, but instead live off fish, as in catching and eating. It's my favorite thing to do, not the job of a fisherman. I hear that'll make your poop very oily and stinky. Lawyer. No, it isn't like they show on TV. Hey, finally cases before the judge. Crap, the other party didn't show up. Next date that judge has given is 3 months away. Honest, most real answer. Any job, every job. Until you've done it, you only have an idealized version of it in your head. Very true. That being said, it's still nicer to work in something you're at least interested in. I have a love-hate relationship with my job. Some days I really beat myself up for choosing this, but most days I'm just glad I get to do something I'm passionate about, even if it's a pain. Cybersecurity. Bro, the movies do us no justice. Hacking is not as fast nor is it as easy as the media makes it. It's a great field, but you spend a lot of time researching or watching paint dry, especially in the gov side. Bar bouncer. Hours of tension and boredom interrupted by moments of adrenaline-fueled fear for your life. Then some butthole pukes cheap booze on your shoes. I write adult fanfiction as a side hustle. After a certain point it's just like writing a paper, except you have to keep thinking of different synonyms for a penis. I'm missing the part where this isn't fun. Zookeeper. Don't get me wrong. It's awesome to be around so many amazing animals and care for them, but the smells are ridiculously, insanely foul. I have a really strong stomach and it's still tough for me. We've had some interns quit over it. I was warned about the smells when getting into the field, but thought, oh, I've volunteered at animal shelters, I know what animal stink smells like. Nope, not even close. Airport baggage handler. Yeah, it's fun being able to see parts of an airport people wouldn't normally get to see and drive around the airfield in spare time to have a look at some planes, especially fancy private jets, but my god is it hard. Long hours, no social life because when you have days off you spend them catching lost sleep. Absolutely horrendous pay for hazardous work. In our training video they showed us the aftermath of someone who had been hit by an ATR 500 propeller and literally just smiled and said don't do this. Also what some people don't realize is that those bags don't magically appear on the plane. Some are loaded individually by hand, this is called loose load, and not into bins, which is a lot easier. You could be stacking over 200 bags in a space so cramped you can't even be on your knees if you are tall. Some of the bag's cargo can weigh over 30 kilograms, so it is physically back-breaking work, and on some days you may not even get a break on a 12-hour shift, and yes, that happens a lot. But the absolute worst part is the bodies. When someone is being sent home to be buried, we are the ones who put that coffin into the hold and tie your loved one down, and it's not easy for us. My most recent coffin was that of a 2-year-old baby, and my god, I was in tears tying that coffin down in the hold. So next time you're packing for that vacation, remember we are down there. Video game tester. You aren't spending your time playing completed fully realized games. You are playing the same level of a game over and over, seeing if there are bugs. Also, you are probably not going to test the next GTA, but something like Barbie's Super Happy Funland 3, or some other game aimed for kids 8 and under, and you'll have to play it for 8-10 hours a day, every day. Managing a dog hotel, breaking up dog fights, dogs crapping in the lobby, and the occasional awful owners. Teacher. Summer's off, cool. Week for Thanksgiving, cool. 2 weeks for Christmas, cool. Entitled parents, crap. School district and administration wanting you to do 2 different things, crap. The kids, sigh okay. I love the kids so much, but they absolutely break your heart 100% of the time. There are buttholes, sure, those aren't the ones who break your heart. It's those kids you can't help. Whether it's from a crappy home life, bullying, or they just aren't smart. It's those kids who you go above and beyond for, but at the end of the day, you can't be there for them all the time. Half of the reason kids enjoy school is teachers. Without teachers our society would truly be doomed. I've been lucky to have good teachers, for the most part, and I think that if I were put in some different classes I wouldn't have enjoyed school that much. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.